Oh, this is... If they don't have an answer for this... Alright, so this should be an interesting way to start things off. This is actually kind of a weird starting hand, but I think we'll take it. And I say interesting largely because it's like a mirror match that's not a mirror match. They're going to be on, I think, just traditional spiders. And we're on more of like a zoo-like good stuff.
What's that noise?
As much as I would love to wait for her, just to get the free trigger. So here's the train of thought, right? If I play the Butcher, we sacrifice this goes to a 3-3, and I have a 3-2. I can swing with both. They block with this to get the Spider, and then this trades with the 3-2. If I wait... Because I'm not going to be pushing damage anyway. If I wait and I get the extra triggers on Kalista, I think there's a bit more value there. Now they're likely going to eat this, because they've got a number of ways to do it.
I must get out of here.
So now we have the dilemma, which is we could actually just sacrifice both units instead of taking the value trade to level her up. But we just don't have a great hand otherwise. It's just a question of whether or not you want this to suicide block here or not. I think we're gonna do it. I don't necessarily think this is correct. I actually think you're supposed to take the value trade, but with our hand being the way that it is, we just don't have a lot going for us. So I think trying to make Kalista kind of become like a consistent presence is just gonna end up being the better option. So if they do this and then they have some sort of removal for this ahead of time, that's a problem. Otherwise, Kalista will just eat the 4-4, which is again fine, as we try to establish our board state here. Now this is risky because if they have a second one, we get just dominated. But I don't think this would have helped us much in that scenario either. We could have also just Furied. Is that actually incorrect by me? If we had Furied Kalista, they would have had to get that extra 4 damage here, and they couldn't have. So yeah, this actually might have been a misplay going for the greed. We should still, I think, relatively be fine because our board is better and the cards in hand are similar. But we could have been in a significantly better position had I actually played that correctly. So you know, take note. This was the safer play.
Let me show you what I can do.
The old disciple. This card went from unplayed to an absolute, like, must-run staple for Noxus lists. Which is rather interesting. I mean, this doesn't really do a whole lot for me at the moment. And this thing can continue to just push damage into me, but suppose if we do this and we just bait them to block with the Disciple or something, then we do have the Fury to try to push it the rest of the way.
Remember the objectives.
That's always the follow-up.
For the glory of Noxus.
He's gonna be so happy.
Let's get a good look at you.
As weird as it seems, we might get stuck having to use this atrocity on this just so that we can have a 4/4 blocker
It will all be over soon.
in future turns. Alright, so now we have to decide, do we want to deny 2 damage from this but leave them with an Elise alive? Or do we want to just take out the Elise to prevent any future issues there? Problem is, because it's Noxus, they very easily have ways to start finishing us off, so I feel like denying the damage here is better. It also means we save ourselves a spider. You know, assuming this last card isn't some other combat trick.
Is that all? Oh, this hurts.
And then, as I said, if we get stuck having to use Atrocity on this, at least now we can maybe use it to take out the Elise. Yeah, see, this is why I was concerned about health. It's Noxus. Well, well, well. Now I'm a little less concerned about it.
Oh, fresh.
You dare!
Strike at their foundations.
Yep, right call, right call. Just because it means this
You
gets
won't
through.
Suffer long.
So we're gonna go down to 3, and we gotta hope that they don't top deck something insane. You still block this instead of this, because Mystic Shot, well, they're not running PNZ. I'm so used to the burn decks. So I guess you don't have to worry about Mystic Shot. So what's the difference between 3 health and 2 health? That's the next question that they could be potentially running. I still think you probably take the health. Because at the end of the day, our plan comes down to this, right? So, you know, we swing with this to try to push enough damage.
My saplings.
Like as our open attack. Hope that they just can't burn us to death. And then go for atrocity, so.
Shoot me right out.
take the open attack because you don't want to give them any chance to play like another Crimson Disciple to block and get extra damage in.
Your path ends here.
Alright, so we don't have enough to kill them with this atrocity, but we do have enough, like even though we sacrifice this Elise, we do have enough to clear their board out. So this was literally the exact card we were praying they didn't top deck. Like, we have a victory if they don't top deck this. Now, we're in a good spot because they essentially are going to get 2 cards out of this, but we have to survive for those 2 cards. So if they top deck Decimate, for example, and we know they're running it, then we just lose. So this is super frustrating, only because they top decked the exact card. There we go. We made it out. Let's go play another game. Misfortune and Sejuani. So this is likely a attacking and kind of plunder based list. This is sketchy, but I guess we'll try it. The issue here is this deck actually has a decent chance at punishing you if they get the right draws. Misfortune and Make It Rain in particular are both kind of nightmares. Also, this Butcher just outright shut us down from poking for 1. And I was gonna say, they're gonna take the open attack, and there's no reason for them not to. Which is really bad for us because it also gives them the plunder, but...
Come closer. I don't bite.
Treasures of the ages for a price.
We're not off to a good start this time around. Not at all. We might actually have to set ourselves up for future turns here. So let's actually do this. Again, we're really worried about Make It Rain here. But we can kind of save ourselves in that instance. So this stops us from being able to attack with Elise. Well, maybe not. You know what? I'm actually okay with doing this. If they block with the Misfortune, they've got no mana, and I will happily trade that and a Vile Feast for her, because this is a bit of a nightmare for us. And it also would give us a couple of 3/3s to help fend off their board a bit.
We must all make sacrifices.
Our hand is just so clunky that we kind of have to, I think, make a sacrifice play there and rebound a bit. And so there's the Make It Rain, which is going to take out potentially this spider. And so we're going to do this. The downside is this is hitting us, so they get basically a free plunder. We've got 4 bodies, and it still, of course, hits our Nexus to give them the free plunder. Which is, you know, frustrating in a way, but...
Don't ask where it's from.
Yep, there's the plunder. I swear I have the unluckiest Make It Rains. I very rarely say, like, you know, never lucky, RNG, blah, 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 but man, whenever an opponent plays Make It Rain on me, it feels like they're hitting exactly what they want to hit the majority of the time. I mean, we have these to clear up their board, but we don't have a lot of room. Which I find to be semi-annoying, so... Takes our Fury out of the equation, but we can go ahead and develop this.
It found you.
Death is turning
This is for sure gonna get blocked by this, but it helps clear the path a bit. The problem is we're losing... Wow, I was wrong. Okay, I was gonna say we're losing this war of attrition here. Because these mean they just continue to play cards and develop bodies. I'm really surprised they didn't take this block. Maybe because I had the mana left over, they were worried about something like Black Spear activating, but...
Carved from the savage cold.
I think we pass for now.
Fresh out of mercy. Ride onward.
The dead don't need riches.
Alright, so now we get to make some room. Do I want to throw this in front of this, though? And really, I kind of want to clear these out. Or at least one of these out. Because we need room for this to attack into these. But I also do want to get rid of this because these are going to go there. So I think we do something like this. Because this is going to get saved. Like, we want MF off the board. This is actually going to reduce no damage. We are literally suiciding this Hawk to make room for Blighted Caretaker plays. Which is kind of comical. They stole a glimpse.
Hell of a day.
I mean, at least that's 2 misfortunes down. And more pilfered goods. The plunders have been unreal. Sure. It denies them a drain and a spider.
Everyone's a garden.
So depending on what the play is here. So this is hitting, again, me. And then the one spider. The one spider I'm fine with, though. So they finally decide to give one of these up. And we can push them to 5. So at this point, we're kind of waiting for a They Who Are Endure to pop up and maybe allow us to push for the final bit of damage, but if I'm being honest,
I pull the strings.
if it pulled the Sejuani, gonna be a Fury. I'm surprised we're doing as well as we are, given that this is as bad of a matchup for us as it is. Again, between the Make It Rain. Oh, this is actually huge. Oh, this is, if they don't have an answer for this, this is potentially massive. Now, the issue with this getting the Fury is obviously the Overwhelm.
We see through all.
They'll see me sooner or later.
But from every fallen, a new seed.
I might even pop this early this turn just to give myself a 4 health blocker. Though throwing Elise in front of it's probably fine. But considering this would give me a decent amount of drain even just this turn, even if these never do anything, the fact that they'll just die at the end of the turn. Okay. So they've stolen my atrocity, they've stolen my glimpses.
Who's on top of the bounty board today? You point, I shoot.
I mean, they have no mana, so I don't have to worry about Fury here. So I'm not outright dead if I just let all of this go. But I also don't have to worry about this dying. If I block like this, I guess. They stole my atrocity. We were in such a good position. So we should be taking 8 here because of the Sejuani level up.
Fight for your lives.
And then I think we probably just lose. Because if they've got any way at all to ping me this turn.
These old eyes still see far and clear.
Then they can...
I'm not
Yeah, and there it is.
friends though. Ooh, fresh soil.
So this is a hard-fought victory, but I honestly think that this particular list is just a bad matchup. And then we'll effectively not have any good ways to stop Sejuani the following turn, unless we somehow do enough damage this turn, which we won't, because again, they'll just warning shot, but if we were somehow able to do like 2 damage even, and then top deck our other atrocity. Them stealing the atrocity that they did is super annoying. We lost this game to our own cards and not anything that our opponent was actually running, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, again, they're just gonna warning shot us, but I think even making them use it here is potentially our best option.
Ready the torches. Light the signal fires.
That is not an atrocity, so that is going to be game.
For conquest.
All right, so the second one did not go our way, but to be fair, we are 100% losing this to our own cards, so bit of a bummer. And yeah, that's it. So I guess we'll go take a look at the list, and you know, on the off chance that you haven't actually seen this list yet, it's actually kind of popular on the ladder now. Discuss what's in it and why. So if you haven't seen this list before, it's essentially a swim list that he kind of popularized a while ago, and it's right up my alley. It's close to actually a couple of other lists that I was already playing. The big difference is that he's including Freljord, where I was including Piltover and Zaun in mine, but essentially you're trying to make use of Kalista, and there's a number of self-sacrifice engines, and then things like Neverglade Collector. Now, the list that I was running was a Prankster and Neverglade based list that was also featuring Kalista. This one is just trying to find a new home for They Who Endure and the Atrocity combo. So this is otherwise a pretty straightforward Shadow Isles list, but we'll go through everything. So you got Ravenous Butcher, This is just a nice activator with the self-sacrifice effects. It's great with Cursed Keeper. It's a nice way to give you free deaths for triggering Kalista, triggers Bark Beast. So nice play, especially in the early game. One drops are Bark Beast and Omen Hawk, so you're not really bringing the heat turn one. A lot of it is just set up for future turns, whether that's Omen Hawk buffing the things you draw or Bark Beast getting on the field so that you can then make him, larger. After the one drops, we've got Sentry. This is, again, just mostly about card draw. If you're running Freljord in any sort of kind of aggressive list, then something that is just a body and then draws you cards is great. Cursed Keeper. This is also a kind of a linchpin of the deck because it gives you a nice sacrifice target. That's actually kind of what both of these are, just sacrifice targets. Then you've got Elise, which you're honestly just running because it's a good 2-drop. I can't think of a time I've actually flipped Elise with this list because there's not a lot of true spider support. You've got Vile Feast and Elise and kind of crickets. But outside of that, it's a great card because it gives you free bodies, which again helps with Kalista, helps with Collector, and the Fearsome stat line is nice. The 3 health is nice. So, I mean, you still run Elise because it's Elise. You're just not really flipping her very often. Now, Glimpse is a perfect tool for a number of reasons. It's card draw, sacrifice engine, etc. 2 Haunted Relics, which are good on defense. Think of this as like the Shadow Isles version of a used cask salesman, but also they help you trigger Kalista, and that is very, very important. Vile Feast, just pretty straightforward. Blighted Caretaker. This is honestly your best removal card in the deck, in my opinion. Being able to kill an ally and give yourself these triggers, but then 2 saplings that you can use to pull away blockers, force damage through, target key units. It's a really important card, and it's just so Shadow Isles favored, and it's so phenomenal. Like, being able to go Cursed Keeper into this against other low-to-the-ground decks kind of just makes you better than most other aggressive decks. So stuff that I have struggled with this list are the list that I just faced, and even then it took them having stolen like the exact card they needed, because that list, so in the second game that we just watched, right, they don't have anything that deals with a 4 health minion very well by itself. So if they hadn't stolen Atrocity, then there's almost no way we lose that game. It was literally them specifically stealing one of my 2 Atrocities that caused us to lose that game. So this list is pretty good, except for against the like plunder heavy MF list because of Make It Rain, Misfortune, etc. And then this list is also pretty good against everything. Aggressively, sometimes burn can give you trouble. It depends on what your hand is like. A lot of times you still have the ability to outrace them, but you don't have a lot of healing, so it's a bit more draw dependent. Most control lists you're actually fine against because most of them have been cutting the board-wide removal stuff. They think, burn is gone, so I don't need the 3 copies of Withering Wail. So keg control can sometimes give you problems, and if you're not familiar with that, I'm hoping to have a video up about that in the near future. But keg control can give you problems, but for the most part, this has been a really effective list. So Kalista is like your main champion in this. It's very easy to flip her. She provides a lot of value. This list isn't as summon-centric as most of my other Kalista lists are. Normally when I play Kalista, I personally like having a number of units that give you additional bonuses when they're summoned, so that she provides more than just, offensive value. She starts providing you long-term value, but in a list like this, it kind of doesn't matter. Fury of the North is just here as a nice combat trick. Neverglade Collector is kind of like a finisher for moments like that last game where, so again, if this resolves and they don't have the answer for it, then the minute we start using our self-sacrifice options and then stalling with these cheap blockers, we can deal 4, 5, 6 damage very, very easily while also healing because it is drain, and then just win the game defensively. So this is kind of your closer for when you've almost finished your opponent and they stabilize. This is a bunker buster. And then They Who Endure, obviously a lot of stuff is dying, so this gets pretty big, and it has Overwhelm. And then Atrocity. They Who Endure, your biggest issue with this card is Will of Ionia. So Ionia-based control, if they stabilize, pretty well before this drops, and this is your like needed win condition, this is a bit more disruptible by them, because one Will of Ionia and you basically lose the game. Even more so, like if you play this and then you know, they do something and you try to win with Atrocity and then they will as well, you're just going to lose. So you've got to be very careful about your timing with both of these cards and be very aware of what can potentially interrupt them. But this is the list, and like I said, it's very close to lists I was already playing, but when I saw somebody post it, and like I said, I believe it's a swim list, but I saw somebody else post it. But when I saw somebody post it, it looked right up my alley. I'm really enjoying it, and since I'm enjoying it, I thought I would do a video and share it with you all. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and until next time.